Welcome to Master Debaters. Today we will be debating two very hot animated films. I have with me Ben, who will be debating Monsters, Inc., and Francisco, who will be debating Toy Story. All right, we'll begin with Ben's opening statements.
When you're comparing the two, first thing, you just gotta think about, they're both childhood movies, right? They're both made for children. But one, Toy Story, you have a conflict between Woody and Buzz, the two main characters. In Monsters, Inc., you know who the good guys are and you know who the bad guys are. You're rooting for Sully and you're rooting for Mike Wazowski the whole time. And you know Randall's the bad guy, and Boo comes in and mixes things up. But in Toy Story, as a child, you're conflicted because you see these two toys that you like both because you're a child and you like toys, but they're against each other. That's not good. You want to be against the scary monster, that's fine, but you're for the good monster. Kids want to see their good guys win, and they don't want to be conflicted because they're too young to understand internal conflict. Also, you just have to think about the movie as a whole, because it's just better. You have funnier scenes. Toy Story's, you know, it's a good, heartfelt movie, but it's not funny. Mike Wazowski getting hit on the head with stuff, that's funny. Even the kids in the movie laughed. You have that mean reception lady, you have the snow yeti guy, you have the crab boss, you have Sully, you have Randall's assistant. There's just so much going on in that movie, and Toy Story, it just doesn't have what Monsters, Inc. has as a storyline. It's good, but the whole time, they're just lost, and they're just finding their way back home.
All right, thank you, Ben. Let's go to Francisco.
Toy Story, you claim that it's too hard for kids to follow, but it's just that it's a complex movie. You don't really have a straight-up bad guy. Sure, you have that mean kid who tortures them, but he's more of a side antagonist. He's something for them to fight, but the main conflict of the movie is these two opposing forces. Neither of them is in the wrong, and that's something that kids need to understand from when they're young. And here's the thing. Toy Story has a very simple story, but usually when a movie has a simple story, it has to make up for it with stuff like characters and themes. In Monsters, Inc., the only two actual characters, I'm not talking about how funny they are, I'm talking about characters like you feel for them, are Boo and Sully. You know, in Toy Story, there are so many characters that you feel for. Even Andy, who's really just kind of a kid, it was very easy to just make him like, you know, disposable, but throughout the movie, there's various moments where you do feel for him for losing his toys. And as for Buzz and Woody, they're extremely complex, especially for a kids movie to have a character who feels abandoned and betrayed and obsolete as a metaphor, or for growing up, how sometimes you just suddenly feel like, oh, I'm suddenly not that important. And for a kid to learn that, especially sometimes, you know, when a kid has a younger sibling, they have to learn in that feeling like, I'm not going to be center of attention all the time, and I can't always expect all the attention to be directed to me. That is something that kids need to learn.
All right, thank you, Francisco. Let's go to Ben for a rebuttal. Ben, what's your response?
Well, your main argument there was that there's only two characters in Monsters, Inc., and that you show this secondary force in not being the center of attention. You're missing out on the biggest part of Monsters, Inc., which is Mike Wazowski. Mike Wazowski is the man who's been put aside. Do we not remember the opening scene where they put the Monsters, Inc. logo over his head? If there's anything like not being the center of attention, it's Mike Wazowski. He has to be this guy's assistant the whole time, and that is the guy that people connect with. Those are the things that the kids connect with, because they see that guy and they think, you know, if this guy's happy with his life, if he's happy being the secondary guy, then I can be happy too when I grow up.
All right, thank you, Ben. Let's get a rebuttal from Francisco. Francisco, what do you have to say?
You mentioned like Mike Wazowski, he's the center of the show. Here's the thing, Mike Wazowski is the center of the show comedically, but character-wise, he doesn't really go through all that much. You mentioned like how he learns to not be the center of attention, but that's not really something he learns. Sure, he's not the center of attention in the movie, but that's not something that's really addressed. It's not a point of the movie, it's just something that happens. As for the stuff with like, oh, his face getting covered, that's not really it's supposed to be a character moment. That's simply a comedic moment. That's how it is. Sometimes something happens in a movie because it's funny. Meanwhile, in Toy Story, aside from having, I'll go back to your first argument, how it doesn't have comedy. It has plenty of great jokes. not the least of which is you are a toy. Which also brings me to, how can you diss on this movie when Tom Hanks is the lead?
All right. Thank you very much, both of you, for being here. Let us know, which movie do you think would win in a fist fight? Monsters, Inc. or Toy Story? Thank you for joining us for this episode of Master Debaters. Good night.